Welcome into WagerTalk's last call. Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas. It's been a fun morning. I got bad news right out of the gate. No VR with us this morning. We hope that he does feel better. But we do have the full court press, guys. I got them here early. I know that is a struggle for Rob Veno because he is the man with about 4,000 papers on his desk. And we don't even know where Trig is right now. Your guess is as good as mine, but I'm going to bring in both of those guys because we have a monster college basketball slate. It is March. It is finally here. And I know a lot of you guys want to talk about the WBC. Maybe Trig's got a WBC play for us. What do you say, Trig? Do you got a WBC play for the audience?
I don't. I can't worry about betting World Baseball Classic while this is going on. I will be ready to start firing bases. First game that I'll really start to dig into baseball like mid March, because I'd rather give them a couple weeks to like get a little baseline of spring numbers, and then I feel like that second to third week in March is where you actually start to get some reasonable outings in spring training. Pitchers start to go a little bit longer. So I ignore the first couple weeks of spring training. That's something I can look at on a piece of paper better than I think you just like, there's no point in watching I'll catch the World Baseball Classic if I'm up, but no, it's just not something I've ever done. Not just this year.
All right. So you want to tell everybody where the hell you are today?
I'm in like the middle of West Virginia right now. I'm going to try to get to the George Mason game this afternoon. I'm at the Starbucks office.
I can hear things in the background. I'm going to mute you on my own accord.
You would do that anyway.
Well, I sometimes can, but I do not have a producer. Johnny Detroit said, Kelly, you are smart enough to run StreamYard and the show and the comments and everything by yourself. So today is sink or swim. So the comments from a couple weeks ago where they're like, wow, this girl's all over the place. You guys better buckle up. I did just get a text from Art to Caesar. Rob Veno is going to take all of these crazy questions that you guys have. And then Adam Trigger is going to take the even crazier ones. But we are going to start off with a couple of the top 25 games because let's just be real. Those are the games that people want to watch. And there is some amazing ones. So I'm going to throw up Shane's question because I think this is an interesting one. Now, is there any value here? No. But these are some pretty sizable favorites today. Houston, Florida, Virginia, UMBC moneyline parlay. I like. Oh boy. All right, Rob Veno, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Of those four games, which team is most likely to lose?
Well, it's probably wow.
I know it looks like I am not a big moneyline parlay better like that, but I'm like, it looks good to me, Shane.
Yeah, I'm not going to say UMBC because I'll get attacked by Trig. So UMBC's in. Florida probably
they're not
wins.
losing.
I don't know. Yeah, Houston's probably not losing. Virginia's a rivalry. Maybe Virginia. I don't know. They shouldn't lose either, though.
Okay. All right, guys. I did get the list from Art to Caesar. I'm going to drop it in this chat early and often today. And I really want you guys to jump in the comment sections. I want you guys to tell us which games you want us to cover. And we're going to go through them all. 3, 2, 1. All right, you guys should have it. Let's kind of go through some of the stuff here and see what everybody wants to talk about. Kelly, post the games ASAP. I just did. Have to go to the Tiki Bar. Our good friend Sean Michael must be in St. Martin. Good for him. So we've got it. Everybody in the questions asking for Garth. If you guys don't know who Garth is, he is the #1 full court press fan for today. And I still see no questions about games they want to talk about. So Trig, I'm going to kick it to you first while we let the comment section populate. Break down a game that narrowly missed your client card.
You want a narrow miss? I was just going to give one of the client plays out. Does that work? Or,
Listen, today we're just going with it. You want to give out a client play? So be it, Trig.
Listen, I'm going to have a few, so I feel like I can spare one for the show. We'll start with some conference tournament action. Let's go Long Island, the Steenberg Wellness Center, Brooklyn, New York. I laid the 8.5 with Long Island. 4% play for clients. This is a home game. So remember, Northeast Conference, they're going to host their conference tournament, higher seed hosts. And in this case, Kelly, the higher seed being Long Island. If they win this game, and the same thing for Wagner, if Wagner wins as well, they might be in the NCAA tournament already. Reason for that, the 12 p.m. game, Mercyhurst and Stonehill. If Mercyhurst wins, they're a 6-point home favorite. they can't go to the NCAA tournament because of the reclassification rule. So that's just a little added bonus that you'll know by the time this game tips off. Regardless of what happens in that game, though, I think this is a pretty big mismatch. Wagner relies a lot on three-point shot making. And the way they got by Central Connecticut the other day was Central Connecticut just didn't come out of the locker room. Complete no-show in the second half, had an injury to their main ball handler, made it very difficult to score. And Wagner did hit a couple of threes to pull away in that game. That's not going to be as easy here. Long Island is so much more athletic. There was a pretty big difference this year, in my opinion, between Long Island and Central Connecticut. Best team in the conference by far. They're on their home court. And Wagner's just not going to have a chance in this game, in my opinion. So I laid the 8.5, Kelly. I made this 12. So pretty big difference between my number and the current number. The Sharks, I think they're gonna blow this team out, and they could be going dancing if Mercyhurst wins that game that goes before them.
All right. Trig says we got a blowout coming in. There's Garth. Ask and you shall receive. He's in the comment section. 14-4 with his plays on Full Court Press. Rotation number 605, 606. Make sure you have your odds logic screen open to follow along. DePaul -2.5 is no longer. I just laid 3.5 from Art's very extensive list from the Westgate Superbook. Rob Veno, I'm going to let you have the floor on this one. Please tell me what you think about this DePaul Butler game.
Yeah, I think 2.5 probably was a good number to lay with DePaul here. Butler, obviously, at this point in the season, we know who they are. Thad Matta's had difficulty all season long getting this team to play any type of defense. DePaul, for what it's worth, gives us 40 minutes of full focused effort each and every time out. A little bit shy on the personnel level, but still good enough in a watered down Big East to perform well against this type of weight class here. Butler, like I say, they're going to try and outscore. I looked at this one, Garth, from the totals perspective. I always do. I want to play this one over the number. Kelly just asked Adam, give me one that didn't make or fell short on your client list. This was one, Butler DePaul, a 12 o'clock start. I wanted to send it out over 144.5, but pulled back a little bit because I had a couple things I liked better. I still think there's wiggle room there, Garth, where the total is concerned. I know you're attracted to side here, laying the points, but for me, this game's moved from 141 to 144.5, and it's a little bit of the reason why I pulled back on it. To those who got the early number, I think you're on the right side. To those who take this late number prior to tip, I still think this game gets to about 147. So you've got some room here in my estimation.
All right, let's see if I can't screw up this entire layout today. This is a fun one for me. We're gonna have a great day today, guys, and we're gonna cash some tickets. Let's keep going and see what other questions we've got from the chat. There's a lot of games here today that I'm really debating on, and what I like to look at is a myriad of things, Trig, and seeing the most popular bets at X Sportsbook, right? I follow John Ewing. I know he gets a lot of grief on X too, but all he's doing is sharing the information there. The number one bet team today is Houston. The number 2 bet team, I believe, let me double check as I'm stating this. I don't want to misquote him, but I thought it was really interesting. I believe it's North Carolina. Just wanted to double check. Yes, it is. It is North Carolina before I speak to that. That is a massive number. Adam, you were just down there in North Carolina. Talk to me about that atmosphere. Talk to me about this point spread, because I've had several people say, wow, that looks short. And, talking to John Murray over at the Westgate Superbook, knowing that Duke is by far the number 1 most power rated team, I think this number speaks volumes.
Yeah, I would only take Duke here. I mean, listen, the first game was a little bit of a fluke, in my opinion. The way North Carolina just hung around, made that late run, of course, hits the big shot to win it. I think Duke has been waiting for this game. They haven't. The thing with Duke is they're covering numbers in bad spots. They haven't even really had to exert a ton of energy. Like, just look at earlier this week on Monday, people were like, oh, Duke might be in a look-ahead spot on the road in Raleigh. They won that game by 29 points. No problem. And, UNC right now was I think they were just a 6-point dog in Raleigh a couple weeks ago. Of course, they're without their top player for the rest of the season, broken thumb in practice. So whereas they thought they might have him in this game at one point. They're not going to now. And, I just think Duke, Rob and I talk about Duke pretty much almost feel like it comes up at least 2 to 3 times a week on the show. They're the legitimate number 1 team in the country right now. Top offense and defensive team. Like if they want to win this one by 20, Kel, they will. And I wouldn't bet against them to do so. I know the number seems big, but this feels like they run them out of Cameron Kelly. They were already camping out when I was there. That was like 2-3 weeks ago. It's going to be an 11 out of 10 atmosphere, and they will absolutely lay into North Carolina if they get the chance. So it would be Duke minus the points or pass for me.
All right, Rob Veno, I know you're not a big situational player, but Florida is probably 6th or 7th on this list over there as the most bet games, right? And I was looking at fade in Florida, but man, they've been so good on the road, especially in conference play. But A-Rock makes kind of a good point here. They don't have anything to play for. Do you start to look at teams like that in early March, headed into conference tournaments, headed into March Madness, when they really can't improve their position by blowing out a team?
Yeah, except in this instance this year, Kelly, that fight for a NCAA tournament number 1 seed comes into play, where Michigan's concerned, where Duke's concerned, where Florida's concerned, where UConn is concerned. There's like 5 like musical chairs, right? 5 people for 4 chairs. So for Florida, and Trigg alluded to this the other day when we had Florida on the show, suggested that Todd Golden might rest players in that game against Mississippi State. Sure enough, he rested Thomas Houck, but guess what happened? They got off to a slow start. Golden said we were kind of slow on our defensive assignments because Houck wasn't in the game, but once they got into a rhythm, they blew Mississippi State out without one of their best players. So for me, Florida just shows that intensity still and that push toward the number 1 national seed. I get where the chat is coming from here as far as SEC seeding is concerned. There's no reason to play. You're locked in. It doesn't matter. Take a break. And he may rest another guy or 2 today. It's just difficult at this point in time to bet against them. And I'll add to that really quickly here where Kentucky is concerned. Mark Pope has struggled with this team all season long. We go back to, it's had to be at least 3 or 4 times that I've either read or saw him in a post-game press conference say the same exact thing. We got to get these guys to play as a team. Too much individualism on Kentucky, and it goes in spurts, Kelly. Like they'll play together as a team, and you'll see really good results out of Kentucky, a couple of games in a row, and then boom, right back to where they were prior to that. They're so inconsistent that they're hard to bet on or against. Honestly, in Rupp today, I would think you'd get a really good effort out of them as a team. All that said, I still think Florida's going to try and win this game. Doesn't mean they have to win by the number, but I don't think Florida's in a letdown spot.
All right. Very good analysis there by Rob Veno. Trig, I never let you do the promotion, but Gianni Detroit told me I have to promote the hell out of you. So 3 days, double the firepower, $59. Let everybody know what they're getting in this 2-for-1 special with you and Veno.
Well, yeah, it's 3 days, all of my picks, all of Rob's picks. What you get with that is a pretty, I think, comprehensive view at the slate. Rob bets a lot of totals. I bet a lot of sides. Betting teams like Long Island. I will. Doesn't mean I won't play a power conference game here and there, but I just think that, like, we touch on a lot of different games. You could probably count on one hand how many times Rob and I have had the same bet this whole season. I mean, go back to November. I literally think you could count on one hand the same time, or the amount of times we've been on the same side, because it's just we have different styles. But I think they, when you put it together, it gives you, a nice picture of you got totals, you got sides, you got mid majors, you got power conferences, and it's a great deal relative to like what we typically charge for 3 days. You're getting us both, and you're getting it in the middle of the busiest time of the year for college hoops. So we're both, and Rob's having a fantastic season. I have pretty much bounced back from a bad November, December at this point. 2-0 last night for me. Rob and I usually recap the day, so I don't know how Rob did last night, but I had a 2-0 after a losing Wednesday, Thursday. So I feel good about the plays I have today, and we appreciate you guys, jumping on. So give us a chance. That's all I'd say.
All right, let's talk about a game that's going to be tipping off here in about 45 minutes. Rotation number 601, 602. Can Missouri cover the 3.5 now? This Missouri team has kind of been, I'll say, a little Jekyll and Hyde this year, Trig, and I haven't quite had a good enough read on them to want to get involved with them. You know, I think it's one of those things that handicappers, as we do, to say, you know what, I cannot get a good read, good, bad, indifferent on a team, and that's how I feel about Mizzou. I will say, though, that 3.5 does look rather intriguing here.
I'm going to make one statement, and then I'm going to let Rob take this because he is our Missouri Tigers guy on the show.
Ooh,
all I have to say is, listen, Darius Acuff is a generational talent, incredible player. He's obviously not playing today. Don't just write off Arkansas because he's not there, because Arkansas still has some really, really good players. And I think this line has been bet the way it's been bet because Acuff isn't playing. But I think that was already known and priced in. So now this is where I'll serve it to Rob. Line's getting a little big there. I don't know if I would lay that number with Missouri. I just think you're taking the absolute worst of it. But I will let Rob break down the Missouri side of the coin here.
Yeah, let's hear what Rob has to say. Rob, at this point in time, is Missouri unbettable?
It's climbed pretty good, Kel. 5-point move. For those who don't know, the reason why Trig says that my youngest went to Missouri, so it's MIZ, and you're supposed to respond with ZOU. I figured that out real quick. I could tell stories about the border war jokes between Missouri and Kansas. And my oldest went to Belmont, so yesterday was not a good day for Belmont. But I don't let my bias get in the way. I was on the show yesterday. I've been doing a segment in Columbia, Missouri Tiger Station for about 21 years now. And we talked about this game a little bit, guys. We just saw it not too long ago. Arkansas won 94-96, I believe, or 94-86. I believe it was the game right after Arkansas went double OT with Alabama. Mizzou went down there, played really, really well, better than I thought they would. They withstood a couple of Arkansas punches in that game, scored really well. This total has moved up from 160.5 to 162.5. Both teams, there's implications in the SEC standings for both of these teams. So I believe that the effort and the focus is going to be there. But I also think that Mizzou knows after that game in Fayetteville, you just don't go into Bud Walton this year or in recent years and hang around with Arkansas. They did. I think that's in their mindset because this game is pretty fresh. So I do think Mizzou has an edge in this game, but I think the betting edge is kind of gone. You wanted to get Mizzou yesterday when this thing opened. Before everybody jumped on the no Darius Acuff angle of this. Missouri team total in this game, guys, for what it's worth, probably worth a look here at 81.5. They scored 86 down there. And today they showed that they don't mind getting into a running kind of track meet with Arkansas. So for me, I think the best angle I could have here would be Missouri's team total over 81.5.
All right, let's get to some more of these questions. Here's one that's rather intriguing to me all of a sudden, Trig. And if you know, you know. New Mexico catching some points at Utah State. And if you don't know, there's some rumors swirling that maybe the head coach of Utah State is interviewing at Kansas State. We'll see. Allegedly.
Yeah, I could see that, and I don't think it would be a. I've always liked Calhoun, came from Youngstown State. I think he's done a good job there. It seems like Utah State is Ryan Odom was wooed away by bigger things, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Man, as far as this game is concerned, this conference has been really, really tough to figure out. Utah State has been the best team in this league for, I think, what most would agree. They're the number one team in this league, yet they have found ways to lose twice to UNLV. They're not quite as this team doesn't have quite that killer instinct, in my opinion, like they did maybe last year. But I have been kind of looking for a spot to fade New Mexico, especially when they go out on the road. I didn't have like a huge opinion on this game, but I wouldn't put someone off from laying the points here. This just feels like a spot where Utah State at home maybe gets right against a New Mexico team that's overachieved for a lot of the year. And I still think New Mexico is a home road split type team. They have such a good advantage when they play at the pit. that now you send them out on a road. This was a Utah State team rolled into Albuquerque, won by 20 earlier this year. They were thoroughly embarrassed earlier this week by UNLV, 92-65. But UNLV, I'm starting to think, is just a bad matchup for them because UNLV won in Logan earlier this year. So kind of feels like a spot where Utah State bounces back. I wasn't dying to lay 8, but you wouldn't be surprised if you saw a double-digit Utah State win here.
All right, let's keep them rolling. If you guys have a question for the guys, please drop it in the chat. We're going to do our parlay here in a few minutes. I'm still deciding on my third leg. There's a couple of teams I want to fade today, and I'm sure Kansas is not one of them. Let's just be real. That line has gotten absolutely chalked up. Here's a game that's going to tip off here shortly, and it's a total. So I'm going to go to Rob Veno. Tennessee, Vandy. Oh, this isn't a total. This is a rotation number, 643, 644. But let's talk about the total here, Rob Veno. I got my odds logic screen open, and I am curious to kind of see how we start to look at some of these early games, right? When you have teams with a lot more to play for, which I can tell you this, I can look at let me look at this list from Art to Caesar before I speak. Yes, the Sharp Group did play Vanderbilt +4. This total's coming down. This total's going up. Depends on who you talk to. 147.5 was the opener. 145.5 at Superbook. Coming down here in Florida at the Hard Rock, down to 144.5. So it looks like somebody likes the under, Rob. Do you agree with that move?
Yeah, the move is probably because of Nate Ament, the star freshman for Tennessee, not going to play today. And Tennessee, for what it's worth, has really been on the offensive side a two-man team. Jacoby Gillespie, ex-Belmont, ex-Maryland as well, point guard and Ament. So you had the perimeter shooter and the down low post player. And now without Ament, they struggle. They haven't found a third scorer this year on a consistent basis. Tennessee hasn't. And Tennessee beat Vanderbilt earlier this year. So you have this in-state rivalry. It's Vanderbilt knowing that they lost in Memorial Auditorium at home to this team. Now they can go down there and repay the favor. I think Vanderbilt's the better team. Vanderbilt's the side that's gotten a little bit healthier over the course of the last couple of weeks. Duke Miles, I think, is back for maybe his 4th or 5th game. Now they still haven't got Frankie Collins back in the lineup, but still, Vandy played a chunk of the season shorthanded, hung in there. I like Mark Byington, what he's done in some of his comments there after losses, especially where he called it unacceptable and Vandy responded. To me, Vanderbilt's the correct side here. I would agree with the sharp move. Total wise, Kelly, I guess, because of Ament, that number is going to come down. I don't know. It's probably in a really good place. This is one of those games where I have a stronger opinion on side than total. I do like Vanderbilt plus the 3.5 at this point in time. I think they could, they could be a money line play in this instance. I'm sure Ament's factored into this line, but I still think Vanderbilt has a lot of, let's just say, atonement for that game that they lost at home to Tennessee earlier.
All right, guys, if you haven't seen already, I do have a March Madness Survivor contest up on Splash Sports, splashsports.com/Kelly in Vegas. I'll drop it in the chat. And I will also redrop those sharp plays if you guys are too lazy to scroll up. We got some really funny comments. Is Adam waiting for a table at Denny's? Is he at Perkins?
I got the best. I got the best comment just now. So I'm at a Starbucks, actually, as you can see. That's just the I tried to put the screen. Well, that's whatever's back there. I tried to put the screen down, but it's like the camera sees through that. But the guy that's been sitting next to me for the last 45 minutes just showed me his phone, and he bet LIU. He must have been listening. And he showed me his FanDuel app. So I basically have there's actually way more people here than there was an hour ago. So I kind of a live audience at a Starbucks in the middle of West Virginia. We're trying to get the Fairfax.
West Virginia was one of the first states that got legalized betting. And I remember my buddy from Ohio, my buddy from PA, they would all drive to gas stations, similar to the prop queen driving to New Jersey whenever she was in New York. All right, Trick, I'm going to let you go first in the parlay. So give us your parlay pick for today.
Well, I mean, my parlay pick's going to be Long Island. I just want to lock that in. If I'm going to come on here and give out a 4% play, it's got to go in the parlay. So I will pick a different game to just kind of discuss real quick. But Long Island is the play that I will put in the parlay. It's minus 8.5. I had that up closer to 12. I think they're going to win that game fairly easily. So Kel, so that is my parlay late. But I'll talk about just another game at random. I'm just going to pick one out of my, I have a lot of notes here. I'll throw another one out there. I don't know if I'll play this at the current number or if I would even have played it at the opener of 3.5, but I do think Tennessee State finishes the job tonight. I think they win the Ohio Valley Conference tournament, punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. I had them last night. They won big. Rob and I have talked about him on the show. Nolan Smith, his first year. I just love the way they play. A lot of pace, tons of ball pressure. They really just disposed of Tennessee Martin last night. And I guess for me, the only reason I didn't come out and lay 3.5 here is because I think Morehead maybe matches up with them a little bit better. But again, Morehead State hit a lot of tough shots to win that game last night against SEMO. I'm actually pretty content with. I'm happy that I didn't just take a bad number on SEMO last night because it would have been a loss. So pays to be disciplined and stick to your number because had I not missed the move on SEMO, I may have actually played that yesterday. But for a lot of those same reasons, willingness to go against Morehead State here with a Tennessee State team that I just think is far better. And so 3.5 or 4. Again, even though I didn't see a ton of number value there, I still think they find a way. And if they win that game, there's a good chance they're going to do it by 3.5 or 4. So Tennessee State's worth a look as well.
All right, we've got a question for Rob Veno. At least I think this is a good one for Rob Veno. UC San Diego, Santa Barbara, 705, 706 on the odds logic screen. UC Santa Barbara was a 2.5 point favorite, now down to 1.5 pretty much and across the entire screen. Opener 142. We're seeing 139.5 start to pop up here. Rob, do you have an opinion here, side or total? Or maybe we'll be nice and take the second half of Andrew's question and quick breakdown for Michigan State tomorrow.
Yeah, I could do both really fast here, Kelly, because I had no interest in the UC San Diego Santa Barbara game. To me, Santa Barbara, if they could ever get Miro Little back, they would probably be, in my estimation, one of the teams to make the Big West final here against UC San Diego. Difficult spot, not a lot of meaning inside the standings for Santa Barbara. Probably a little bit of the reason why you see a tip down in the number. As far as Michigan State is concerned, be a little bit of revenge for the Michigan State side, which on a Friday night a few weeks back had Michigan in their gym. A lot of money came on the Michigan State side. It was one of those games. I think it was the game where Michigan was on like an 0-8 point spread run inside the Big Ten. They were just being priced too heavily. And in this instance, they weren't. It was, I don't know, somewhere in the 1 to 2.5 range. I forget exactly what it was, but Michigan blew Michigan State's doors in. I would expect Tom Izzo to have his team pretty well prepared. Not that he didn't the first time around. There are going to be the same matchup problems that existed the first time around for Michigan State. I'm one of those who in football and in basketball always subscribes to the theory that coaches love to fix what went wrong the first time around. And probably no better adjustment head coach in college basketball than Tom Izzo. So hopefully he can make some adjustments here for his team. I think I would look a little bit toward Michigan State in this game to put up a better fight. And they've really hung in that Big Ten. I mean, I thought they were going to falter a little bit, but they have not. So I would look a little bit toward Michigan State in that game.
All right. Thanks for the $5 donation to charity there, Mad Max. I like TCU today. Both teams coming off an upset win, but TCU has a more balanced offense there at home. I have not looked at this game. Let me pull up the odds logic screen here. TCU is playing Cincinnati, rotation number 633, 634. TCU is small 2 and 2.5 point favorite. Ooh, a very prominent sharp book, minus 1.5. Interesting, 141. This total has been bet up pretty significantly. Trig, any opinion here on this Big 12 matchup?
I want to like TCU. I still think I like this TCU team better than Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati's really come on of late. But man, like TCU, I mean, this is a team that has a win over Florida. Like they have some really impressive results. And then they have impressive, like, just near misses. They took, when BYU was playing well, they had a lead in Provo. They took Kansas to overtime in Lawrence. Like, their guards really get after it. Great defensive, like, pressure from their guards. They've just been like kind of Jekyll Hyde, right, Kel? Like, they have, but on the flip side, they go to Colorado, you get crushed, lose to UCF. Here they're at home. I'm still not fully buying Cincinnati. So for me, I think TCU kind of needs this one. I mean, I think they're kind of going to be in the tournament regardless, but could really hammer the point home with a win over Cincinnati here. So I lean TCU, but I have to say I've been wrong about Cincinnati. That team has really come on and sort of turned into a legitimate basketball team, which I did not think was going to be the case earlier this year when they were like doing things like losing to Eastern Michigan. So yeah, I lean TCU, but likely will not be something that makes my card.
Yeah, I think that turning point was in Manhattan. All of a sudden, there came our good friend Cincinnati, and they've kind of really turned a corner this season. All right, let's go out west. Rob Veno, 677, 678. Thank you, Jason, for following directions. Wyoming, San Jose State. Any thoughts on the total here at 149.5?
Really, in my mind, Kelly, the only way to play San Jose State at this point in time is to the over. I always look that direction first. Wyoming's not necessarily the kind of team that you want to get involved with in a lot of overs, especially at this price. But I will say there seems to be a little bit of added intensity with Wyoming this week, especially from their head coach. Trigg and I talked about this yesterday, where went on a little bit of a rant about how difficult it is for mid-majors to schedule. And his whole rant was really about the Miami of Ohio undefeated season and maybe getting excluded from the NCAA tournament. But the fire inside the head coach here for Wyoming in the middle of the week, toward the end of the season, kind of made me believe that Wyoming still has a little bit in the tank here. They've been kind of a middling team all season long. Again, it's tough for me to get involved in a Wyoming total where you have to get to 150. The counter side to that is it's not that hard in a San Jose State game to get to 150. So I guess to the question here, Jason, I'm looking at, I would say the answer has to be, do you believe more in fading the San Jose State defense, or do you believe more in Wyoming's inability really to play games that high scoring?
Okay. Very, very good breakdown there by Rob Veno. Trigg, kind of debating on the next question. There's a couple of games I want to talk about, and I know everybody has their own. And some of you guys are really mean today in the comments, so I'm just going to ignore you. Here you go. Here's a good Trigg question. Anyone going to back Drake plus 5.5 today? This seems right up Trigg's alley.
Listen, I'm very impressed with what Drake did yesterday to Belmont. I am impressed. Really, actually, go back to 2 days ago, even beating Southern Illinois, but they're up against an Illinois-Chicago team that I think is like sort of maybe built for this sort of physical. I don't know what the deal is, but the unders in the Valley tournament have been going on for a long time. It's tough to shoot. Like, everyone has a hard time shooting in this arena. It doesn't really make sense to me. It's just like a big arena. I don't really understand how it's gone on this long, but it has. And so now you get a Drake team that runs into an Illinois-Chicago team that I think is gonna like out physical them here. I'll say this is where the dream ends for Drake, Kel. Illinois-Chicago handled them in both regular season meetings by more than this number. Most recently, 80-70 on the road. I just like the way Illinois-Chicago has played really since the start of conference play. And I just don't know that I can see a world where Drake is in the title game in this league. I'll throw one more thought out there while we're on the topic. The other Missouri Valley game, same thing. I would lay the points with the favorite. I think Northern Iowa is similar in the respect that their defense wins out and they cover against Bradley. So if you force me to pick which Valley semi I liked more, I would say Northern Iowa, because I think they're a little bit undervalued by getting guys back. They're healthy now. They weren't healthy for a lot of conference play. But I like both of those favorites in the Valley today.
All right. Lots of questions about if I'm going to take K-State today. You guys, here's the problem. We spoke about this last week about teams quitting. Who cares? Who doesn't care? I don't know what to make of this K-State team. We know that there have been significant issues within them. They went on a 4-game losing streak back November, December, 5-game losing streak through January, 6-game losing streak. Boom. They fire Jerome Tang. And oh, by the way, then I bet on him to beat Baylor. And that was the one shining moment there in mid-February. They did have a nice win over West Virginia, but that was more of a letdown spot versus West Virginia coming off that nice win over BYU. Just my personal opinion there. I thought this line was going to come out closer to 13 and a half. So to see it all the way up now to, I think we're starting to see 17s. Let me open up the odds logic screen. I know the comment section loves to tell me that I'm unprepared. 17 and a half, but I've got about 45 things in motion right now. First of all, we are 24 minutes until tip-off, and I'm not as organized as Rob Veno. But as far as K-State goes, no, I'm not going to take K-State, guys. I don't trust this team. I think they are ready for the season to be over. I think they are ready to transfer. And frankly, I'm ready for them to do so. Is it a little late to take Kansas? Yeah, I do think it is. They have their own set of problems, their own sets of issues. Bill Self and Darren Peterson cannot wait to get away from each other. I think they're going to have a very early exit in March. Rob Veno, I'm going to go to you. 665, 666, Colorado State from our WagerTalk insider, Matt Pa, WT.buzz/insiders to join. He wants to know about this total. It's gotten bet down to 143.5 currently.
Yeah, I'll say this about Colorado State. They're picking up steam at the right time of the season. Was looking at them the other night as a potential, they and UNLV both in that Mountain West Conference. They haven't been talked about a lot this season, but both are playing extremely well right now. I would look at Colorado State's side in that game. The athleticism that Boise lacks kind of helps them in this game because they're not facing one of the more athletic teams in the Mountain West Conference. However, Colorado State shoots it really well. And like I say, they're just red hot at this point in time. So from a side perspective, I would look at Colorado State. Both teams rather methodical. I could see the reason why the total was bet down. In my case, I don't like to play unders in this price range. I often make the statement in football, and I'll make it here, that teams in college basketball can get to 140 by mistake nowadays. So it's hard for me to stay under, but it's the obvious way to look here with both of these sides. A little bit defensive oriented. I think Colorado State has more juice on the offensive side, and I also think that they're just playing better at this point in time. I think the -1.5 is more attractive than the total in this game.
All right. Shout out to Monzi Man. Nice little donation there for charity. Trig, I'm going to kick it right over to you. 671, 672, Wisconsin at Purdue. A lot of people like the Badgers here. I am not certain that I like the Badgers here in this spot. I will say whenever a respected group comes in on the other side, it always makes me say, wait, what am I missing here? They laid 8.5 at the Westgate Superbook on the list that I've dropped twice in the comment section. I will drop one more time before the show is over. Everybody relax. All you got to do is scroll up. Trig, give me your opinion here on this one. Oh boy, only one time.
Sorry
Trig
about that.
today.
Sorry
See, he
about that.
follows directions, guys, sometimes, and then other times, here we are.
So here's the deal. I understand the anti-Purdue sentiment right now because that's been me for like the last month plus. I haven't had any desire to bet on this team, but in this spot, it's the final game of the year. They're at home. Wisconsin can be jump shot reliant. They can sort of need to get hot from three to win a game like this. I think I would prefer the Purdue side here. Am I going to come out and lay 8.5? No, in my opinion, there's much better stuff on the board today to bet than that. But this is not the spot where I'm going to come out and try to take points with the road dog. Go back to January 3rd. Purdue was just playing better. I don't even know if it was that they were playing better as much as they just hadn't fully been exposed yet. Purdue won this game easily in Madison, 89-73. Could I see something similar? Like, yeah, I mean, if Purdue gets hot and they sort of ride the home crowd and it's, senior day for Smith, like this could be a Purdue day. I'm not saying that I like them anymore. Like, I'm still anti-Purdue right now, but I think I'm pro this spot for Purdue. Shane, listen, I don't sleep on the Badgers. Yeah, like if these two teams rematch in a week on a neutral, maybe, but I don't know if I want Wisconsin in this road environment in this spot.
All right, Rob Veno, time to give me your leg of the parlay. I think I've got mine, and it's really ugly, and you guys are going to hate it. So Triggs on LIU. Rob Veno, what say you?
Yeah, let's go to the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, guys, where they're calling this the Stairway to Seven. Catchy conference tournament names, so many rounds, so many sets. Like the 1 and 2 seed don't play for 6 days while we get through all the rest of these teams. But in this one, you have a couple of games tonight, both intriguing. Georgia Southern is going to be playing their 4th game in 4 days, continue to run the table here. And Southern Miss is going to be playing their 3rd in 3 days. And that's where I'm going to go here. I like Appalachian State minus the 4.5 against Southern Miss here. Again, Southern Miss, 3rd straight game. They played one time this season only because of the configuration of the schedule inside the Sun Belt. Appalachian wins that game by 7 points. I think what gets me to this game is just the difference in tempo for this one. Appalachian State was able to control. They're the 13th fastest tempo in the league, so they're very, very slow. Southern Miss is 3. They want to run. Appalachian was able to control that in the first game, win by 7. Here they get Southern Miss potentially on some fatigue legs. You go through the minutes that these guys have played in the 2 consecutive. Now this will be their 3rd. I think that Appalachian State's number 1 rated defense inside that league could wear them down, grind them down. And offensively, Appalachian's just a better team at this point in time. They were extremely hot for a while, sort of cooled toward the end, but I like this matchup. I like the rested against the severely unrested. So I'll take Appalachian State minus 4.5 in this game.
All right, I'm just going to go right into my parlay, and then we're going to take you guys home right up until the noon slate here, getting all your questions answered. Yeah, I'm going to fade Alabama. I looked at on my long list. I was like, all right, do I want to fade Houston? Don't know if I want to fade Houston. Definitely don't want to fade the Florida Gators. I can understand the reasons why you guys might want to do so, but instead, I'm going to fade the Alabama Crimson Tide. So I'm sitting here looking at the odds logic screen. This one opened 8. Now we're seeing 7.5 yet. Everybody. Oh, and by the way, 2 prominent sharp books all just went to 7. Look at that screen lighting up, boys. That's one of my favorite things to see. Yeah, I know. Auburn, Bruce Pearl was trying to give them a nice argument to get in, but this isn't a play on Auburn. This is a play against the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nate Oates coming off that really ugly Georgia loss Tuesday. Georgia's plus 1.5, went to pick them. I was like, come on. I missed it. I was unfortunately at the VA with my dad all day. Not great Wi-Fi. I said, all right, I got to stay off. And Georgia just absolutely rolled. Those types of late season wins can be really demoralizing for teams like Alabama. And it could cause them to, as we like to say, lose a game twice. Well, at least hopefully against the spread. We do know that Auburn has the offense to be able to play with Alabama. Hopefully they can stick with them for the better part of 2 halves. They don't turn the ball over. We know they're going to get boards. And of course, if they can keep the fouls to a minimum, I think they can keep it within this 7.5. So grab the 7.5 now because it may not be there come tip off. So we've got LIU. Rob Veno, one more time.
Appalachian State minus 4.5.
All right, App State minus 4.5 and Auburn plus 7.5 is our team ticket for today. I'm going to try to load some more of these comments so we can get in here and get some more questions answered. We've already talked about Utah State here, guys. I think that's kind of it. If you guys don't have any more questions, I'm ending the show because I got bets to get in. I know Rob Veno's got some work to get done. Adam Trigger is probably got to get a coffee refill.
Oh, I've been here for a long time. I probably shouldn't have another coffee.
Good
I've
idea.
Been here
All right, let's hit.
I got to hit the road after this, but yeah.
Okay, good. I like that for you.
I'll talk. Listen, I'll talk Siena real quick. Someone just asked Siena.
Okay, talk Siena.
So quarterfinal round of the MAC tournament, Boardwalk Hall, Atlantic City. I would be lying. I'd be lying if I said Siena was going into this game in the greatest of sort of situation. Antonio Chandler is not going to be able to play in the MAC tournament for a reason that I think is no one has been able to give a great explanation yet. It's essentially a clerical error on his transcript. Now, why it's coming out now? Probably some Iona fan that alerted someone. It's nonsense. He should be playing, but the point is he's not, and they're going to be without him tonight. Now, the line came out shorter. It's moved a little bit. Do I agree with that? Not really. I think this hurts Siena's chances maybe to have a shot against Merrimack in the final, but they should. This is a game, in my opinion, they should still win. Mount St. Mary's is not the same team that went to the tournament last year. Listen, they're scrappy. It'll be a good game. Like this, that's the one thing you'll learn about the MAC tournament at Boardwalk Hall is every year it seems like a lower seed wins this tournament. We've had some like big, like I think even Mount St. Mary's last year was the 6 or the 7. But when you look at these two teams, neutral court, I really think Siena is still, even without Chandler, who's come on of late, he's just been a really good, he almost like role player turned like bigger contributor for them. But even if you take him out, I still think Siena is categorically better than Mount St. Mary's. And now you're talking about only having to lay 2.5 on a neutral. I don't have the warmest fuzzy feeling about Siena for the entire tournament, but for this round, this is a game I think they should win. And that number is now what I think is a little bit short. So Siena or pass for me there, Kel. A little bit of a homer take, but I really think that they are just much better than Mount St. Mary's this year. They fared well against them during the regular season. And you know what? I'll throw one other thing out there. They've got to be pissed off about the whole Chandler thing. And I think you see a big effort from them tonight.
All right. Johnny Detroit just jumped in and said, you know what? We have over 8,000 people watching live across all platforms today. They're going to get a free pick at Sportsmemo, sportsmemo.com, using coupon code LASTCALL for today only. So head over there. Rob Veno, I know you've probably got something loaded over on Sportsmemo. And if you don't, I'm sure you're headed to do that here right after the show closes out.
Absolutely. On Saturdays, especially, Kelly, I like to put a night game up over there at Sportsmemo to give the people a little bit of extra time to get to that particular play. Mm-hmm. I'm going to speak really quick here since nobody has a question on something that could arise as a factor here tonight coming out of the Big West. Yeah, Hawaii and UC Irvine. First of all, we have to label this as one of our favorite colleagues, Drew Martin, the Degenerate Special. It's his term for the last game in college football each and every Saturday. But here the Degenerate Special is going to be Hawaii at 12 a.m. Hawaii and UC Irvine tied right now for the number 1 spot in the Big West, the number 1 seed. UC Irvine wins the number 1 seed with a victory tonight. The thing about this game is UC Irvine plays at 8 Eastern. So by the time Hawaii plays at midnight, they're going to know whether or not they can win this league or whether or not they're going to finish second, because they can't fall to third. It kind of renders the game meaningless for Hawaii at midnight if, in fact, Irvine wins against UC Davis earlier in the night. So something to keep people up really late for tonight. It could be an instance where Eric Gano and Hawaii, who are really on a good hot streak right now, but I do wonder what that lineup would look like tonight or how the minutes would be dispersed tonight for Hawaii if, in fact, they know going into their game, we can't win the league title anymore, guys. We're the 2 seeds, so let's just stay healthy and move on to the Big West tournament.
All right, here's the game I wanted to get to before Trig started telling you guys all about his alma mater. All jokes aside, let's go to the Big 12, 637, 638. I got the odds logic screen open. And to all of you guys bashing me in the comment section, I've got about 45 browsers open, and I don't have a producer anymore because, well, I should be able to do this myself, but it's really kind of hard with 3 people. And yeah, I'll quit bitching now. 637, Arizona State, 638, Iowa State. 15.5 was the opener, 147.5. Treg, this one's starting to get some Arizona State love. Let me double check Art's list. I do believe this was a game they played. Yes, plus 15.5. So some sharp money did come in here on the Sun Devils. Do you have an opinion on the side or total?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm not dying to back Arizona State right now, even though they are playing better, but I'm all for a fade of Iowa State, who I think they've regressed considerably since earlier this year. I think teams are starting to figure out how to defend them. It's become easier to make them a little one dimensional on offense, and so when you just right there, I'm not going to lay a premium with Iowa State when I think they're having trouble putting the ball in the basket. Now, yeah, like, of course, Hilton Magic is, of course, a thing. Not too long ago, they destroyed Kansas on this floor, 74-56. But, I mean, if you look at the way this team has played the last month, a loss to TCU, a loss to BYU, that BYU loss is really bad right now, because if you look at what this BYU team has been since Richie Saunders went down, and then you consider the fact that Iowa State managed to not only lose that game, but almost kind of get dominated, lose by 10. That's really concerning to me. Yeah, they end up beating Utah by 16. But again, that's one of the worst teams in this league. I have real concerns with Iowa State. I don't think they're a top 10 team at this point. Rob and I talked about that on the show not too long ago. They're still getting grouped in this 1 or 2 seed line. And I just very much disagree with that, based on how they've played the last month. So, yeah, I get where the Arizona State love is coming from here, because laying any sort of a number with Iowa State is just difficult right now.
All right, here's a game we haven't talked about that I think is rather intriguing. Miami's been bet up from a pick'em versus Louisville. Thoughts on this game here, Rob Veno? I can see why people are betting Miami. I can see the early Miami love here. But I have not paid that much attention to ACC basketball this year, so you're going to need to help me out.
All right, so Miami, this is a pet peeve of one Adam Triggers. The way the conference schedule shakes out in the ACC, because of the amount of teams that they have in there now, including Notre Dame. Miami, for what it's worth, has played the weakest ACC schedule of everybody. Adam reminds us of that constantly, and here they're going to play a pretty good team in Louisville. I wanted so badly to get to Louisville here. My problem with Louisville is that they really do become perimeter dependent. I wish Louisville could find a way to have a consistent interior post type scoring game to go with the array of 3-point shooters that they have. They're explosive. They can score in bunches. Miami's played pretty good defense. Miami's very physical. So there's a couple of sides of the fence here. One is Miami, even though they've answered a couple of bells here, they just haven't been really tested thoroughly this season. So you would look at Louisville as being a real test here. From that angle, you like Louisville. But from the other angle, Louisville's dependency upon the threes, should they not fall, Miami probably wins. I mean, Jay Lucas, the head coach of Miami, has absolutely taken on a philosophy and ingrained it inside this team of, we're going to be more physical than the opponent. It's worked for them so far this season. They do score a lot. I could see an overplay here if you were to look at total. But my glance at this was, I wanted to play Louisville, and I just couldn't get there because I don't know that they have enough of an interior game to help out the offense.
Trick Emily has a few jobs, and one of them is to remind me of things. I completely forgot. We're doing a show tomorrow, guys. Same time, same place, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So you guys are enjoying all the college basketball talk. Come join us again tomorrow. I drove all the way back home for Trig and have to go all the way back to Gainesville tomorrow night just for him to be able to do a Sunday show. So we are
yeah, and I promoted it on our show this week. So our viewers, I know we got a slightly different audience here, but our viewers should be there as well. So
love that. Let's keep going. I almost said Pac-12, but both of these teams are in the Big Ten now. Trig, how do you feel about USC versus UCLA? There's Rob Veno. See, I knew I was going to screw that up at one point in time today. Trig, talk to me about this USC team, because I believe they took some sharp money there early. Nope. The under took sharp money here at the Westgate Superbook, under 150.5.
Yeah. And UCLA took some money too. I think UCLA got slammed on the overnights, got bet this morning. I don't know if that comes back at all. But I think there was some rogue, like 4.5 that were gone pretty quickly with UCLA. It was up to 6. I definitely agree with the move. when UCLA, Kelly, when they don't have to travel, when they don't have to come to the Eastern time zone or the Central time zone, they've been fantastic this year. And I don't know where USC goes from here at this point. This feels like a season that's kind of cooked for them. Yes, they'll get to go to the Big Ten tournament and play it out, but the sentiment around USC right now is just not something I would want to bet on. And Rob and I joke about this a lot too. Mick Cronin always seems to find a way to get his team's attention at some point. A lot of times it looks bad, and you feel like he's losing the team. But if you watch Cronin long enough, you know that tends to not be the case. I think UCLA is playing as good as they've been all season. And, I go back to my early season rankings. This was a team that I thought was going to be right in the mix there in the Big Ten. So I don't know if I'm ready to throw UCLA in as a dark horse yet in this conference tournament, but they've been playing great right now. They don't have to leave California. I think it would be UCLA or Passer, even at the current number. There's actually some value at 6 if that's where it still is. I have to double check the odds screen, but yeah, I like the Bruins in this one.
What a Saturday. Almost 10,000 of you guys watching live. If you guys head over to sportsmemo.com using coupon code LASTCALL, you are going to get a free pick from whichever handicapper you would like today. I know Rob Veno's got some stuff up, and Adam Trigger absolutely better have. Rob Veno, I've got some other questions here in the chat. And of course, there it goes. All right. 713, 714, Air Force Nevada total 142.5. This is a big number for Nevada to lay here, Veno, but I can't trust Air Force whatsoever. How does that affect the total?
Yeah, it affects. Air Force has just been an absolute ATM as far as betting their games over are concerned. I just cashed one the other night again. Defensively, there's zero resistance on the Air Force side. It's been a nightmare all season long for them with the Joe Scott saga. Started early this year. I think back to the very first full court press show that we did. Air Force was on the card, I think against Belmont, and Trigg had made the comment Air Force might be the worst team in D1. They certainly haven't done anything to disprove that. What they do, though, for us bettors who appreciate it, is they just constantly do one thing well, and that is go over the total. They don't get priced extremely high. Your problem here is probably Steve Alford's team plays a lot of defense, but Nevada's going to find their way to 80 plus in this one. So you're never asking Air Force to do too much on their end. You're not asking them to do too much here either. Over 142.5. I would totally agree with Jason on that one.
All right, let me see if there's one more question that I want to answer today. If there's anything, you guys are getting kind of boring here. We got people dropping off because we know the games are tipping off here in about 90 seconds.
I got one. I saw a question. Can I just
go ahead?
I saw a couple people ask about the America East tournament. So all the quarterfinals are today. What you got to remember about the America East is those are campus site games, so higher seed hosts. I would have loved to take Maine today, but I don't know what Beal's status is, and without him, I could not make that bet. So, something if TJ Beal is going to play, I would look toward Maine plus the points. I think they're getting 4 right now. If he's out, I want no part of that. So I guess to give you my strongest America East lean today would be Vermont to just absolutely destroy Bryant. Vermont, they're not the team they've been in years past, Kelly. This is not a dominant Vermont team. They did not win the America East this year, finished second to UMBC. But Patrick Jim is a great, it is the biggest home court edge of any team in that league. It should be rocking today. And Bryant is just been it is just a big time rebuilding year for them. Phil Martelli Jr. obviously takes the job at VCU. The Bryant team that went to the NCAA tournament last year now is totally restarting. Jamie and Christian, first year head coach. They actually overachieved to an extent. I thought they would have finished last in this league this year. So the fact that they were 7 out of 9 teams and got themselves in the America East tournament is actually somewhat impressive to me. But they're in a rough spot today up in Burlington. I think they get destroyed in that game. So you got to lay a big number. It's 13. That's why, you're still laying a big number in that game. But I made it, I think 17.1. I'd have to find in my notes. Wouldn't be surprised if that's a runaway for Vermont.
All right, just as a reminder, if you are going to use coupon code last call, it is for today only. We'll see if we do another one for tomorrow, but it is for today only. You can get anyone's plays over there normally for just $7 today. If you are a last call viewer, you get it for free. Double the firepower, Rob Veno, Adam Trigger, full court press, 3 days, just $59. We're going to be back here tomorrow, same time, same place here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Rob Veno's like, wait, this is news to me. Why do I have to work 7 days a week? Because it's March, Rob Veno. That's why. Hope you guys have a wonderful and profitable Saturday. Shout out to all of you guys in the chat. Almost 10,000 of you watching live today. We love you. Let's cash them. Don't trash them.